All right. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Matt from MiniWorldMasters, and today we are going to be talking about the gods of Mora again. More specifically, today we're going to be talking about the intermediate gods, down to the lesser gods, and to the Demi-Gods finally as well. First, we will talk about Lyra. Lyra is neutral good. She is the goddess of the elves. Her domain is knowledge and arcana. Her symbol is a golden cloth. Essentially nothing specific, piece of golden cloth, something like that. So Lyra is the goddess of the elves. She was created from Atheia, who crafted her with the image of perfection in her mind. Lyra is often depicted as a beautiful elven woman with long hair of pure sunlight and eyes that shine white. Lyra believes that she will guide the race of elves to greatness, and through her guidance, balance will be restored to Mora. Lyra is obsessed about the acquisition of knowledge, especially that of the arcane. She is always thirsty to learn of her other gods as well, and is distasteful of Getho, who chooses to hide and secure knowledge rather than to share it openly. Lyra resides in the Great Sun Citadel within the Feywilds. Next, we'll talk about Arga. Arga is chaotic neutral. Arga is the god of storm. Storms and lightning are the domain. The symbol is typically a bolt of lightning. So Arga is the lightning. He was created when the wind of Poi passing through the realm of fire ignited into a bolt of lightning. Arga often appears as watchful eyes over the skies during a large storm, and is largely mysterious. Arga believes himself essential in the realms and creates vast storms across the realms to urge the lands and the life upon it to adapt, change, and become something stronger. Arga typically resides in the astral plane, but doesn't specifically have a place that they would call home. Next, we're going to talk about Burr. Burr is neutral, created from Avina. He's the god of giants. His domain is courage and strength. Symbol is typically a closed fist. Burr is the god of courage and strength, and created the giants in his image. Burr is often depicted as a massive man of perfect proportion and musculature. Burr committed little to the overall balance and saw little reason to meddle directly, and rather chose to create and let live the lives of his creation. Eventually, Burr thought it might be an advantage to create a smaller version of himself for survival purposes, and he created Torgo, who created the first modern humans in his image, a little too small, giving the first halflings life. Burr insisted that Torgo create something more akin to his image, and the first modern humans were the result of the second attempt, to which Burr was satisfied. Burr resides in the Astral Sea. Next, we talk about Fost. Fost was also created from Avina. Fost is neutral, the god of beasts and insects, with the domain of the wildlife. Symbol of Fost is typically a beetle. Fost is often depicted as a large bear-like beetle with a wise presence. Though Fost is nurturing and friendly, Fost is very protective over his creations and will not hesitate to punish those who would wish to do harm unto them or overstep the balance. Fost was created from Avina and with a heart of true neutrality. Fost believes that the simplest creations are often the most useful in the grand balance, and struggles to see why others need to exist at all. Fost typically will reside in the Astral Sea, but often visits the material plane to oversee his creations. Next, we'll talk about Gorgo. Gorgo is chaotic evil. Gorgo is the god of orcs and goblinoids. His domain is glory and pride. The symbol is a 4-point star. He is often depicted as a great and massive orcish gorilla of great power and poise. Gorgo was created by Mora, who saw her rival's creations and thought it fit to create her own balance in her creations, giving an opposing force to Strom. Gorgo was divided in his image, however, and saw that more holes in his image were not yet filled, giving birth to a multitude of similar yet vastly different races in orcs and goblinoids. Gorgo lorded over these races often controlling the minuteness of their existence for generations. This initial overprotective micromanagement led to a heavily religious mind bred into the orcs especially, who were less intelligent but much stronger than their goblinoid kin. Gorgo eventually saw that this was harmful over long periods of time and chose to take a step back a little bit further as a god and allow his creations to find their own path and become stronger through more struggle. For without his guiding hand, his creations were forced to find their own path. Gorgo typically resides in the astral sea. So next we'll talk about Leandro. Leandro is true neutral. He's the god of rivers and lakes. He is the domain of beauty and vanity and selfishness. The symbol of two streams around an oval. Leandro was created from Oshina, who sought to penetrate some influence into the lands built by Mora, who took this as an action of hostility toward her mountainous creations. Leandro was rebellious, however, and driven by the beauty and vanity of his rivers and lakes as they carved their way through the lands, he often takes the form of an exceptionally beautiful being of many various races, depending on who he is interacting with. Leandro cares little about others and only chooses to do what he sees fit to further substantiate the beauty of his design. The creation of Leandro resulted in the natural feud between Mora and Oshina to escalate, and the lands of the world suffered greatly due to this rivalry. Eventually, Mora grew to respect this and see the beauty in the world that was being formed, and the feud between Oshina and Mora found an understanding. Leandro resides in the astral sea mainly, but officially has no place where he calls home and drifts wherever he pleases. So next we'll talk about Nostra. Nostra is lawful evil. He is the god of vampires. His domain is blood. Symbol of Nostra is a blood droplet with two fangs on either side. Being the first of the vampires, Nostra was born of death and created to bring those with the gift of life to the realm of dead. Nostra was a pure form of vampire, and when depicted in his true form, becomes a massive bear-like winged creature with humongous fangs and a lust for blood. From Nostra's rampage, the first vampire spawn were created, and soon Nostra gifted the spawn with full vampirism. All vampires hail from the original bloodline of Nostra. Nostra is said to reside on the material plane, but it is often said that he has retreated to the Shadowfell, where he can lurk in the shadows, but nobody really knows where Nostra resides, as he chooses to surround himself in shadow and secrecy, choosing only to strike to obtain the precious resource of blood. Okay, so next we're going to talk about Strom. Strom is lawful good. Strom is the god of dwarfs and domain of builders and mining. The symbol of Strom is a block of stone and a hammer. So Strom often takes form as a sturdy, well-bearded dwarf, immeasurable in poise and authority. Strom was created by Mora, who saw fit to create a natural balance in her creations, giving an opposing force to Gorgo. Strom created the dwarfs in his image and built them with a keen mind for manipulating the rock and earth, and built them shorter so that they might conquer the tunnels with much more ease. The dwarves proved expert miners and encountered many precious gems within the depths of the earth, of which they revered and worshipped these gems. Strom saw the love for the gems that the dwarves bestowed upon them, and thus created Selgna, the first of the gnomes. Strom guided his creations in subtle ways rather than direct influence, but thus has made his presence known well enough to have a deep seed within the hearts of all his creations. Strom resides within the Twin Peaks in Rodon in the elemental plane of Earth. Alright, so next we will talk about Varia. Varia is lawful good. She is the goddess of plants. Her domain is forests and agriculture. Her symbol is a single leaf. So Varia is the goddess of plants and bringer of light. She is often depicted as a flowery dryad and is worshipped by the simple act of planting a seed and nurturing it to life. Varia is the most selfless of all the gods and believes that purpose is balance, and knowing one's purpose is the first step to bring about change. Varia grows her plants across the realms wherever they may grow in hopes that the other gods will one day realize her vision of balance and allow themselves to become one with nature and watch it grow with her. Varia also aided in the banishment of Cadal. Varia helped bind Cadal so that Mora could use her great sword to cut through Cadal, thus breaking his concentration. The blade that was used was left behind to hold the essence of Cadal where it struck, and Varia covered it with her plans to hide it forever. Varia resides in the Fey Wild and only chooses to spread her influence onto the material plane when she needs to plant more seeds. So lastly of the intermediate gods, we will talk about Wamban. Wamban is neutral as well, and is the god of fish and sea creatures. His domain is fishing and aquatic life. The symbol is a seashell. He was created from Oshina to give the waters of her great breast a child of which to feed. The vastness of her womb allowed Wamban to create a variety of life in a place which was largely uninhabited by other races, and thus gave life to the underseas, a vastness of life far below the oceans that exist without knowledge of the surface. Wamban chooses mostly to reside in the elemental plane of water when he's not in the astral sea. Our next section, we will go over the lesser gods. So the first of the lesser gods we'll talk about is Atheia. Atheia is lawful good. Atheia is the god of the Aasimar. The domain is protection and justice. The symbol is an axe with a blazing sun for the blade. He is often depicted as an angelic being of muscular fortitude, wielding an axe that blazes with the might of the sun. He was created by Theia to act as her champion against the powers of the Shadowfell. Theia is father to the Aasimar, who are an extension of his hand of justice. Atheia is much more active and abrupt with his blessings, seeing the most direct route as the best option, rather than scheming and planning. He is referred to as the Fist of the Sun, and seeks to bring light over the darkness wherever he shines. He resides in the Great Sun Citadel, in the Feywilds. Next we'll talk about Getho. Getho is chaotic evil. Getho is the god of irregularities. His domain is secrets and trickery. His symbol is a half-moon eyeball. So Getho is a god or goddess, as Getho manifests in all things irregular within Mora, and is said to be the direct cause of the mixed and irregular races of Mora. Getho sees balance in falsehoods and seclusion of valuable knowledge. Created by Nida as a reaction to the emergence of the elves, Getho is meant to bring balance in the form of chaos. Getho takes many forms and has little influence, but devotes much of his efforts to the counter-activity toward the intentions and influences of a Lyra. He despises her so, and thinks ill of her lust for this knowledge of all things, and feels that no balance can be brought with such a thing, and only in chaos and secrecy can the world truly thrive. Getho typically resides in the Shadowfell, where he can manifest as he pleases in the darkness and remain hidden. Next we'll talk about Rodon. So Rodon is lawful neutral, the first of the dragons of Mora. Rodon was created by Avina. Rodon is the god of dragons and kobolds. He is the domain of greed and enslavement. His symbol is simply a dragon. Rodon resides in the astral sea, typically flying wherever it sees fit. Rodon was forged to create the guardians of Mora, the dragons, creatures of magic and great power. He created the first of the mortal dragons in his image, and Rodon believes that only dragons were meant to guard over the other beings of the realm, and through their guidance or force, they will forge the world of Mora's intended image for the dragons to reside for eternity. Rodon, being a dragon and thus lustful of precious treasures, saw the creations of Selgna and the race of gnomes as a threat to the obtaining of the wealth of Mora. Rodon created the race of kobolds in hopes that they would mine the earth of Mora and provide the dragons of his creation with the wealth of the world and the worship to follow. For this, the kobolds and gnomes have always been in constant hatred of one another and have fought wars over the mining rights of Mora many times throughout the ancient histories. After the heart of Mora was separated, the magical weave was not as powerful to sustain the dragons, and many died. Rodon safeguarded some of these dragons as best as he could, awaiting for the time when they could rise to power once again. These dragons reside in concentrated pockets where the weave is still strong within Mora, and nowhere else have they ever been seen. It is likely that other dragons have survived. They are simply dormant due to their inability to reign their true power with the weakened state of the material realm of Mora as it is. Next we'll talk about Selgna. Selgna is chaotic neutral. Selgna is the god of gnomes, the domain of precious gems and artifice. The symbol is a diamond. So created from Strom, Selgna was the first of the gnomes of Mora. Selgna often takes form as a male gnome with eyes like diamonds and skin just as hardened. The dwarves proved expert miners and encountered many precious gems within the depths of the earth, of which they were revered and worshipped. Strom saw this love that they put into these gems and thus created Selgna, the first of the gnomes, from the largest and most precious gems that were worshipped. Selgna resides in the astral sea, where he can best take observation over the realms to find the most precious gems wherever they are to be found. Next we'll talk about Torgo. Torgo is lawful good. He is the god of humans and halflings. His domain is colonization and trade. The symbol is two diamond shapes linked like a chain. Torgo is often depicted as a perfect male human of great stature, and represented in cultures that value civilization and trade. Torgo was created by Burr in his image and tasked with the creation of a race equal to his prowess. Torgo first created the halflings initially, but Burr was not satisfied, and thus humans were created to appease Burr. Torgo guided his creations as Burr did, through subtlety rather than direct force. Through this, he watched his civilizations rose and fell over thousands of years, and with each new, Torgo watches in hopes that it will manifest into the perfect society of which to bring balance to Mora through unity. His power is less than Burr, but it grows stronger as the cultures of the realms develop. Torgo would likely ascend to intermediate godhood if the realms could ever settle long enough for civilizations to develop further. Torgo resides in the astral sea. Alright, so lastly today we will talk about the few demigods that exist in the realm of Mora. So first of the demigods we'll talk about is Kal. Kal is chaotic evil, the god of demons in Mora. The domain is fear and anger. The symbol of Kal is a circle with an X through it. Kal was created from the essence of Kidal during the tearing of the heart of Mora from the mainland. The creation of Kal coincided with the first portal opening from the abyss into the realm of Mora. It is said that Kidal's rage was so intense during this tearing of the heart of Mora that Kal was manifested. Kal is depicted as a great and terrible demonic figure with large curved horns of smooth black and a massive torso of a man and legs of a bull. Kal prefers to tear his foes apart with his massive claws rather than wield any weapon. Kal exists and resides within the abyss, but holds the vast majority of his demonic worship in Mora over any other demon lord who attempts to claim any worship in Mora. Kal is fiercely territorial over his claim to Mora and will do war with any demon lord who attempts to undermine his claim. He resides within his own domain in the abyss. And next we'll talk about Sephiroth. So Sephiroth is neutral and the god of the lizard man. His domain is regeneration. The symbol is a lizard head silhouette with the tongue extended out. So Sephiroth was created by Rodon in his image, but as a servant to the great master of the dragon. Thus Sephiroth was given none of the gifts of the dragon, but given its likeness. Sephiroth is depicted as a strong lizard, but more often than not is never depicted and would rather live in the shadow of its ruler and creator. Sephiroth created the lizard men, a race that was created to serve the dragons of the realm. Sephiroth worships in every capacity Rodon and is unaware of much of the other gods or their creators. Sephiroth is very mild-mannered and relentlessly protective. Sephiroth resides at his master's side, typically in the astral sea. Lastly, we will talk about Strogth. Strogth is lawful evil. He is the god of the devils. His domain is hatred and pain. His symbol is a horned skull with sharp fangs. Created from the essence of Kidal during the tearing of the heart of Mora, Strogth is born of his torment and pain, but is of the 9 hells, and protects the gate from Avernus to the realm of Mora, especially the material plane where followers are most prominent. Strogth is depicted as a winged horned devil of somewhat meager stature compared to larger and more powerful devils. He is devoted and cruel and gains power from the hatred and pain of others. Strogth wishes to spread his influence across Mora and thus began breeding with many of the humanoids in the material plane and others. Strogth resides in Avernus and is ever protective of his portal. Alright, so that about does it for the gods of Mora. Next time we will talk about the nations of the mainlands. Until next time, I'm Matt from MiniWorldMasters, and thanks for watching.